20 most evil actors in Hollywood history. What if the legendary icons you grew up idolizing weren't just difficult divas, but actual, real-life monsters? We are pulling back the heavy velvet curtain to expose a chilling reality that Hollywood spent billions of dollars trying to bury. Forget about bad tempers and on-set tantrums. Today, we are diving into the darkest, most terrifying depths of Tinseltown. From beloved sitcom fathers who operated as calculated predators, to untouchable golden boys harboring deeply macabre fantasies, these A-listers used their unmatched fame to shield unspeakable crimes. Prepare to have your ultimate cinematic illusions violently and permanently shattered. Welcome to American Icon Stories, where the truth is far more horrifying than fiction. Before we expose these absolute monsters, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, and brace yourself. Bill Cosby. For decades, Bill Cosby reigned absolute as the ultimate patriarch of television, universally adored and implicitly trusted globally as America's dad. With his iconic, cozy sweaters and gentle, moralistic humor, he built a multi-million-dollar empire founded entirely on the flawless illusion of wholesomeness. He was the barrier-breaking comedian who gathered families in their living rooms, preaching respect and family values. However, behind this meticulously crafted facade lay one of the most chilling, calculated predators in the dark history of Hollywood. The betrayal of the public's trust was nothing short of catastrophic. Cosby weaponized his unparalleled power, astronomical wealth, and grandfatherly charm to disarm, drug, and systematically victimize women over the course of half a century. When dozens of brave survivors eventually stepped into the unforgiving light to share their harrowing truths, they painted a horribly consistent portrait of a serial abuser. He utilized his elite legal teams and industry clout to ruthlessly silence victims, ensuring his golden reputation remained untarnished. When the dam finally broke, leading to a highly publicized criminal conviction and the irrevocable shattering of his legacy, it wasn't just the end of a legendary career. It was the total demolition of a cultural monument. The shocking realization that a man delivering moral lessons on primetime television was simultaneously orchestrating a deeply sinister double life remains a terrifying testament to Hollywood's ability to hide real-life monsters in plain sight. Kevin Spacey. If Cosby manipulated the masses as a beloved father figure, Kevin Spacey dominated the silver screen as the untouchable elite mastermind. A two-time Academy Award winner, Spacey commanded a level of industry respect that made him practically invincible. He was a brilliant cinematic chameleon, celebrated globally for his masterful portrayals of calculating villains. Yet the world soon discovered his most terrifying and destructive role was the one he lived strictly off-camera. In a staggering fall from grace that sent seismic shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry, Spacey's glittering empire evaporated literally overnight. Long whispered dark secrets exploded into the mainstream as a devastating flood of allegations rapidly surfaced. He was accused of systematically preying on young, vulnerable actors and crew members, ruthlessly abusing his absolute authority in both blockbuster film sets and prestigious theater circles. He operated in environments where aspiring artists felt completely powerless to speak out against a living legend. The sheer velocity of his public downfall was unprecedented in modern Hollywood history. Within days, his untouchable legacy was incinerated. He was digitally erased from completed motion pictures, unceremoniously fired from his flagship television series, and instantly banished into Hollywood exile. Spacey's catastrophic unraveling stands as a grim, unforgettable warning. It powerfully illustrates that no amount of raw, undeniable artistic genius can protect a predator once the heavy wall of silence is shattered by the truth. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is revered around the world as one of the great pioneers of film comedy, bringing joy to millions through his lovable, clumsy little tramp character. However, behind the humor and his iconic mustache was a man known for his intense perfectionism, a strict and sometimes demanding personality, and a personal life marked by controversy. On set, Chaplin was known for holding extremely high standards, often placing significant pressure on his cast and crew. He famously required numerous retakes for a single scene to achieve perfection, and did not hesitate to make changes in personnel when he felt the results fell short of his expectations. Even so, his professional reputation was not the only aspect that drew public attention. Chaplin's personal life was often surrounded by debate, particularly regarding his romantic relationships. He was known to be involved with women significantly younger than himself, at a time when he was already an established and influential figure in the film industry. His early marriages, which took place when his partners were very young, sparked considerable public discussion during that era. In addition, ongoing speculation about the complexities of his personal relationships, his strong personality, and various personal controversies contributed to a multifaceted public image. Chaplin may remain an enduring symbol of the silent film era, but his private life reveals a far more complex individual, one shaped by fame, power, and personal choices that have continued to generate discussion over time. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando fundamentally revolutionized the art of performance, cementing his legacy as the brooding, magnetic godfather of modern cinema. He was a generational talent who brought unprecedented raw emotion to the silver screen, but that same unpredictable intensity often mutated into a terrifyingly destructive force behind closed doors, particularly in his treatment of women. Brando was notorious for inflicting severe psychological torment on his romantic partners, leaving a trail of broken lives and emotional devastation in his wake. The darkest and most unforgivable chapter of his career, however, occurred on a movie set under the guise of artistic brilliance. During the production of a highly controversial film, Brando conspired with his director to orchestrate a deeply violating, unscripted scene involving his 19-year-old female co-star. Without any prior warning or consent, he crossed the ultimate professional and moral boundary, sacrificing her physical and emotional safety purely for the sake of capturing a genuine cinematic reaction. This harrowing betrayal inflicted profound, lifelong trauma on the young actress, fundamentally destroying her mental health and her trust in the industry. While critics and audiences foolishly praised his boundary-pushing commitment to his craft, the disturbing reality was that Brando used his untouchable status as an acting deity to justify unpardonable cruelty. His immense talent was entirely eclipsed by his chilling willingness to completely shatter another human being for the sake of art. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was a powerful, heroic figure of Hollywood's golden age, celebrated for his commanding and honorable roles on screen. He nearly etched his name permanently into film history by helping to break the industry's infamous blacklist during the production of Spartacus, reinforcing his legacy as a strong advocate for artistic freedom. However, behind his signature dimpled chin and carefully crafted image of integrity, there have long been discussions that add a more complex dimension to his life. For decades, within Hollywood circles, there were unverified rumors involving Douglas and the young actress Natalie Wood. These stories resurfaced after his passing, but they remained controversial and without definitive confirmation. Some accounts suggest that certain situations may have reflected the imbalance of power between established stars and younger performers in the film industry at the time. The contrast between his public image as a defender of creative freedom and the discussions surrounding his personal life highlights the more complicated side of Hollywood's studio era. It reflects a system in which power and fame could sometimes blur boundaries, and where many stories remained unresolved for years. Klaus Kinski. Klaus Kinski was globally renowned as the terrifying explosive madman of international cinema. His famously unhinged, intensely physical performances mesmerized audiences, while his violently chaotic on-set tantrums became the stuff of cinematic legend. Directors and co-stars frequently dismissed his screaming fits and aggressive outbursts as the unavoidable collateral damage of harboring a tortured, eccentric genius. But the chilling truth was far more sinister. The terrifying madness Kinski portrayed so perfectly on camera was not a brilliant performance, but the unmasked reality of his everyday existence. The full, horrifying depth of his depravity was kept entirely hidden from the public until years after his death, when his own flesh and blood bravely stepped forward to completely shatter his legacy. In deeply traumatizing, agonizingly raw confessions, his two daughters exposed their father not as a celebrated artistic genius, but as an absolute monster who subjected them to a lifelong nightmare of severe physical, emotional, and unspeakable predatory abuse. The man who dazzled the world with his intense, haunting eyes utilized that same terrifying dominance to turn his own home into a private prison of silence and unspeakable suffering. His daughter's courageous testimonies fundamentally destroyed the dangerous myth of the tortured artist, violently proving that the entertainment industry's habit of romanticizing toxic behavior often provides the perfect camouflage for real-life predators. Kinski's legacy is now permanently stained, remembered not for his on-screen brilliance, but for the devastating, irredeemable destruction he inflicted upon his own children. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was the absolute epitome of Hollywood royalty, a fiercely ambitious, Oscar-winning titan who clawed her way to the very pinnacle of the studio system. With her impeccably sculpted features and undeniable screen presence, she projected the ultimate image of maternal perfection and glamorous sophistication. Yet, the horrifying reality hidden behind the immaculate, heavily guarded walls of her luxurious Los Angeles mansion was a nightmare of staggering proportions. The pristine illusion of her blissful family life was violently shattered by her own adopted daughter in the explosive, deeply traumatizing tell-all memoir, Mommy Dearest. Crawford was ruthlessly exposed, not as a loving mother, but as a profoundly unstable, sadistic tyrant who weaponized the adoption system merely to cultivate a sympathetic, highly profitable public image. Behind closed doors, she subjected her children to a terrifying, unpredictable reign of physical and psychological terror. From unhinged, alcohol-fueled midnight beatings to draconian punishments over trivial, everyday matters like the infamous wire hangers, Crawford ruled her household with a violently iron fist. She utilized her immense wealth and absolute authority to systematically crush the spirits of the very children she publicly claimed to rescue. The glamorous starlet who dazzled global audiences in the spotlight was, in devastating reality, a terrifying monster who inflicted unimaginable lifelong trauma, proving that the most sparkling Hollywood facades often conceal the deepest, most unforgivable cruelties. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson was once the undisputed, untouchable king of the global box office, an Academy Award-winning powerhouse who commanded absolute reverence in Tinseltown. From his heroic, career-defining heights in Braveheart to the rugged magnetic charm of his blockbuster franchises, his star power seemed completely invincible. But that golden billion-dollar legacy was violently incinerated by a rapid series of self-inflicted explosive controversies that unmasked a deeply disturbing and aggressively hostile off-screen reality. The glittering facade first cracked spectacularly during an infamous traffic stop, where he unleashed a vicious, unapologetic anti-Semitic tirade that instantly shocked the entire globe. The situation spiraled into pure, unadulterated horror a few years later, when leaked audio tapes caught the A-lister hurling deeply racist, violently misogynistic slurs and terrifying death threats at the mother of his child. This wasn't merely a PR nightmare or a temporary lapse in judgment. It was a visceral, undeniable exposure of uncontrollable rage and deep-seated, vile bigotry. Hollywood, an industry historically notorious for sweeping terrible behavior under the rug, had absolutely no choice but to swiftly blacklist him, turning one of cinema's most revered titans into a radioactive outcast overnight. He went from being the ultimate cinematic savior to a grim, cautionary tale of unchecked malice. Gibson's catastrophic and highly publicized downfall serves as a brutal, unforgettable testament that undeniable talent and massive box office appeal can never permanently mask a deeply toxic character. Danny Masterson built his entire lucrative career playing the lovably cynical, effortlessly cool slacker on the massive global hit sitcom That 70s Show. For years, millions of devoted viewers welcomed his laid-back, charming persona into their living rooms, completely unaware that behind the prepackaged laughter lay a highly calculated and incredibly dangerous predator. While he projected the comforting image of a harmless, quick-witted rebel on screen, his off-screen reality was a terrifying nightmare of systematic abuse, deep-rooted manipulation, and unyielding entitlement. Masterson didn't just commit horrific acts of violence. He actively weaponized his formidable A-list status and the impenetrable protection of highly secretive, powerful institutional connections to silence his victims for decades. He drugged and brutally assaulted multiple women, operating under the terrifying, arrogant delusion that his elite Hollywood network made him entirely immune to the law. However, his heavy wall of intimidation finally crumbled when his brave survivors relentlessly pursued justice against seemingly insurmountable billion-dollar odds. In a landmark 2023 legal reckoning, the untouchable television star was violently stripped of his fame, convicted, and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. His staggering descent from a beloved, highly paid sitcom icon to an incarcerated felon is a grim, unforgettable reminder of how fame can be twisted into a shield for unspeakable atrocities, proving that the brightest Hollywood spotlights often cast the darkest, most terrifying shadows. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer was the absolute embodiment of Hollywood perfection, a wildly handsome, impossibly charming golden boy, born directly into a billionaire dynasty. With critically acclaimed, magnetic performances in elegant films like Call Me by Your Name, he was rapidly ascending to the very pinnacle of the A-list, seemingly destined for a long, untarnished reign as cinema's ultimate leading man. But that immaculate, aristocratic facade completely imploded in one of the most bizarre and profoundly disturbing scandals in modern entertainment history. At the absolute height of his skyrocketing career, a terrifying digital trail of leaked private messages violently ripped the mask off his polished persona. The world watched in pure, unadulterated horror as multiple women bravely came forward with chilling allegations of severe physical abuse, extreme psychological manipulation, and deeply twisted, violent sexual fantasies that bordered on the macabre. Hammer was exposed not as a sweeping romantic hero, but as an alleged, highly dangerous predator who used his immense wealth, striking looks, and cinematic charm to lure and psychologically dismantle his victims. The fallout was instantaneous, brutal, and absolute. Within mere weeks, the Golden Boy was completely eradicated from the industry, dropped by his powerful agencies, and entirely erased from every upcoming blockbuster. Hammer's catastrophic, unprecedented downfall is a jaw-dropping cautionary tale. It violently shattered the illusion of the perfect Hollywood gentleman, proving that behind the most flawless billion-dollar smiles can lurk a terrifying darkness that defies all basic human comprehension. The glittering billion-dollar facade of Hollywood was built on a foundation of heavily guarded secrets, but as we've just seen, the darkest truths always claw their way out. These cinematic titans gave us unforgettable, legendary magic on the silver screen, but left a harrowing trail of broken lives and unspeakable trauma in their wake. Now, we turn the ultimate question over to you. Does undeniable artistic genius and cultural impact ever excuse horrifying real-life atrocities? Or should these tainted legacies be permanently erased from history? Whose terrifying double life shocked you the absolute most? Drop your thoughts and spark the fierce debate in the comments below. For more untold dark truths behind the velvet ropes, subscribe to American Icon Stories and hit the bell. We'll see you in the next scandal. Kirk Douglas was a powerful, heroic figure of Hollywood's golden age, celebrated for his commanding and honorable roles on screen. He nearly etched his name permanently into film history by helping to break the industry's infamous blacklist during the production of Spartacus, reinforcing his legacy as a strong advocate for artistic freedom. However, behind his signature dimpled chin and carefully crafted image of integrity, there have long been discussions that add a more complex dimension to his life. For decades, within Hollywood circles, there were unverified rumors involving Douglas and the young actress Natalie Wood. These stories resurfaced after his passing, but they remained controversial and without definitive confirmation. Some accounts suggest that certain situations may have reflected the imbalance of power between established stars and younger performers in the film industry at the time. The contrast between his public image as a defender of creative freedom and the discussions surrounding his personal life highlights the more complicated side of Hollywood's studio era. It reflects a system in which power and fame could sometimes blur boundaries, and where many stories remained unresolved for years.